Sorry, I don't have a webcam.
That's okay. We'll wait just a few minutes, see if we have anyone else. I know we're on a little bit early, so give it till like a few minutes after 3:30. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, I'm here. Can't see me.
All right, it looks like we still have a few folks coming in, so we'll give it a few more minutes. Alrighty, well, we will go ahead and get started. And if more students join throughout the session, I can just go ahead and continue to let them in. But thank you so much to all of our organization representatives, as well as our incoming students who joined us for this session for Virtual Involvement Week. We're really excited to have y'all here. My name is Haley Anderson, and I serve as Assistant Director for Leadership Programming with the Ole Miss Student Union, and we're hosting this Involvement Week. Just to kind of give y'all a little bit of housekeeping details for the session, and then we'll jump into, I'll moderate some questions for our panelists. But I think everyone already knows this pretty well based on our Zoom usage so far, but I can see that everyone's muted right now. Just keep that mute button on. If you're not actively speaking, it gives some feedback. And then we also want to make sure that y'all are all aware of the closed captioning service that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and actually copy into the chat a link to that closed captioning. So I will put that in here. I can get it to copy. Okay, for some reason, my chat's not wanting to work. There we go. Everyone see that? So you can click on that link and that'll show you the live transcript of this session, and then we'll actually be loading, we're recording it as well. So we'll have a recording of this panel uploaded to our website with the captioning overlaid later. So if anyone didn't get a chance to see the session, or for our panelists, if that's something you would like to share out and use in your networks or across campus, you can refer folks to that website. We'll have it available there. We have a couple of groups today, so I think that we'll be able to keep pretty fluid conversation back and forth between our two reps. And like I said, you can watch everything back later. Students, if you have questions throughout the presentation, feel free to post them in that chat box. And then our panelists, our org representatives, if you want to just kind of keep an eye on that chat box as well to answer any questions, and then I will try to answer what I can. But again, thank you all so much for being here. We're really excited to spend this next hour or so together. To get us started, I would love for our panelists on the call, and there might be more than, there might be a couple people from each org, but if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself with your name, your role within your organization, and then your classification and major.
Ensign Anthony, I'll let you start.
All right, thank you, sir. So my name is Ensign Anthony. I'm Ensign Anthony. I'm from the Ole Miss ROTC program. I graduated in May of this past year, and I graduated with a bachelor's in economics. So, but I won't be using that for a while. I'll be going to Pensacola for flight school here in October. So until then, I'll stay at Ole Miss.
Hi, I'm Megan Steese. I am in Air Force ROTC at Ole Miss. I'm going to be a senior, and I'm going to be the cadet wing commander. So that's basically the person who is head of all of the cadets. My major is Chinese, and then my minor is in intelligence and security studies. But I want to be a pilot as well. So that's awesome that Anthony's going. That's great.
And my name is Captain Angel. I am one of the Air Force ROTC instructors at Ole Miss, and so here to answer questions about what our program is. I invited Cadet Colonel Megan Steese to join us today so that she can speak to what is Air Force ROTC from a cadet perspective, and then we get a lot of questions about scholarships, entitlements, and things of that nature by virtue of being part of the program, and so I'm here to answer those questions as well.
I guess I'm not. So I'm Timothy Vitale. I'm a retired Navy chief. I actually was an intelligence specialist in the Navy. So I'm here to actually assist in any way that I can. I will be a student this fall. Finance is my major. I actually know Wesley Yates. He and I served together on the WASP. So he's the intelligence studies teacher, I guess. But 24 years of intelligence is my background. So here to help in any way that I can.
Did we get everyone? I know we had a late join. Okay. Well, if I missed anyone in introductions, feel free to share that introduction in responses to next questions. And as far as like order of response, if we want to kind of just keep that same order, or if there's a question someone feels really compelled to jump in on, please feel free to do that. It is a smaller group today. So like I said at the beginning, we can kind of keep our conversation pretty fluid throughout the session. So tell us a little bit more, if you could share with the students, about what's the purpose of your organization, how do you contribute to campus, the greater community. Tell us a little bit about, you know, sort of the mission and values aspect of your organizations.
So to keep the same order, I can start. Really, the principal role of our organization is to commission students as officers in either the Navy or the Marine Corps. And through that, we can offer them multiple career paths, whether it be in aviation, surface warfare, various aspects of the Marine Corps. So that's kind of our purpose. On campus, we try to keep as much of a presence as possible, including multiple community service events throughout the year, and also just morale boosting events for the people within our organization.
All right,
Yes.
so to follow, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead,
Cadet Steve.
Captain Angel. Go ahead.
All
You go
right.
for it.
So from the ROTC perspective, just following in that same order is that the big thing here, and this is just speaking across ROTCs across the, in the entire Bernard Hall, is that the focus at the end of what it is that we do is that our students know that they have a job when they finish their college degree. That's the big thing. When we get down to the skinny of it, we all do a lot of things that support the university and the community. Cadet Steese, as a sorority member here on campus, she is a big advocate and does a lot of things that she can speak to. As a detachment, as far as grove cleanup after football games, which everyone knows we hope to have football games this year. We've got Adopt a Highway. So we're doing things to support the local community, things of that nature. But the big thing about this is that our mission is to grow and develop leaders of character for tomorrow's Air Force. And so with that in the back of the minds of all of our students, they know that when they complete our program, that they are going to be second lieutenants in the United States Air Force. I'll turn it over to Cadet Steese. I cut her off.
You're okay. I was just going to add to that by saying that a lot of students I know are asking, okay, well, what am I going to put into this ROTC program? Like, is it going to be a lot? Is it going to be every day? Am I going to be super stressed? Can I, participate in other organizations on campus? Yes, the answer is yes, you can. Of course, ROTC is a commitment. You do have a 2-hour lab and a class every week, and you do have other, drill sessions and practices and PT. But, speaking probably on a lot of the cadets' minds is that I can do a major of Chinese and an intelligence, minor, plus be in a sorority, plus be wing commander, and I am totally okay. It's all about time management, and it teaches you a lot of those leadership skills that you need not only to be an officer, but a leader in life. So you can always try it out and see how it goes, and then if it's not for you, it's not for you. But I know that's something that a lot of people ask about ROTC in general, Navy and Air Force ROTC. So.
Anybody else? Didn't get a chance to go yet? I can roll right into the next one, and if someone didn't get a chance to share, feel free to jump in. Tell us about what is one of your favorite aspects of your group. This could be like in a specific program or event or training aspect, like find an isolated part of your organization and tell the students a little bit about that so they can get an idea of like some of the things that you do throughout the year.
Sure. So during the school year, I'd say probably one of the most fun and fascinating things we do is, and the other services do it too, is our birthday ball and other morale boosting events. It's just kind of a fun formal where you kind of get to celebrate the history of your branch and all the people that have been in the service before you. In terms of after the school year, my favorite thing so far have been summer training. I've gotten to go anywhere from Japan to San Diego to Connecticut and Rhode Island. So I've kind of already started the join the Navy, see the world aspect, and I just graduated. So that's definitely the coolest part for me so far.
Something I love about Air Force ROTC is that it's kind of a family aspect. I know it's super cheesy, but Ole Miss would not be the experience that I would have come of it if I didn't have Air Force. What I love most is that I have created so many friendships through ROTC, and I spend so much time with them. Not only, I get to get away from the sorority life and the other friendships I make through classes and get to do the Air Force family as well. But something I love doing is the 9/11 run every year. On 9/11 or the week of, we do a run with every other ROTC branch to commemorate the lives that were lost and during 9/11. And so a lot of people from the community join as well. And it's just a really great sense of serving our nation. And that's definitely one of my favorites.
And so from the perspective of a cadre member in Air Force ROTC, there, and this is the same is true of Navy ROTC and Army ROTC, obviously to include Marine Corps. With the military appreciation game, things of that nature, marching across the field with cheering fans and family members, looking at the cadets, marching across the field, and that's a very small piece of what we do. As a cadre member, I would say the most exciting time for me each year in teaching and working with the cadets in these programs would be our spring-based visits. Just so not this previous spring because of the entire pandemic, but the spring prior, spring of 2019, we chartered up to Memphis Air National Guard, hopped on a C-17, flew to Joint Base Charleston, and then we bussed up to Shaw Air Force Base in South Carolina. Got to hang out with F-16s, and see the entire mission. And we have videos to prove. Cadet Cease is here. We actually stood next to an F-16 engine that had been removed from an airplane, and it was in the engine shop, and we had double hearing protection and goggles, and they put an F-16 engine at full afterburner. It was like a tornado in the room. But the cool thing that we do, and I'm sure that the other ROTC units do as well, is that we put our cadets in unique positions to where they can see what the different jobs are in each service branch. They meet intelligence officers, which correlates with intelligence and security studies. They meet civil engineering officers. They meet contracting officers. Captain Bush here is a missileer. Folks that are on the front line. We have a flight simulator in our detachment for those that are aviation centric, things of that nature. And so our focus is to get our students out to the bases so that they can meet the people that are doing the jobs day to day, to make an informed decision when it comes time to decide what do I want to do for the rest of my life, or for the next 4 years when I graduate. Which is most positions are just 4 years on active duty. But our focus is to make sure that our cadets are getting the full experience of what are active duty officers doing in the Air Force. And so all expenses paid, going to visit places around the country is the most exciting time for me, just to hear the questions that our students have, because at the end of the day, everyone across any ROTC detachment, and this isn't about poaching from the Navy, which Ensign Anthony, I would love to do. But the biggest thing is just making sure that we are all going to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the world's greatest armed forces. And so that's the focus. And so getting our students out in front of the officers that are doing this day to day is the most fulfilling thing that as a cadre member, I get to be a part of.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing that. And, as we know, we have new students or incoming students here on the call. Could you speak a little bit to, why these students might want to join your organization, and also how do they take those first steps? And what would that experience look like being a new incoming member for these organizations?
Sure. So the biggest thing for us, the reason why you might want to join any of the ROTC programs, is obviously the career in the armed forces. And with that, we can provide you monetary assistance while you're at Ole Miss. So those are probably our two largest positives so far. But in terms of like how you would actually do it, so you could email our unit or myself, and I can post that in the chat here in a little bit. And we can kind of get you started on that application process. So you come in as a college programmer. And I'm not quite sure how the beginning of the semester will work with COVID-19. We're still discussing that, so we can get back to you soon after with how we're going to do that. But in terms of just taking your first step, you can just email one of us and we can get you started.
So again, talking about all the ROTCs as a whole, I'm certain that the Navy, the Marine Corps, the Army, there are plans in place in order to provide some sort of monetary assistance along the way. to support students that join our organizations. I will say that as far as things go with Air Force ROTC, the simplest thing, the easiest way to join the program is to add Aerospace Studies 101 to your schedule, which is from Monday. It's on Monday from 11 to 11:50, which has a co-requisite for our leadership lab, AS 111, on Thursdays from 14:30 to 16:30. We are in the process, and I've got, my cadet wing commander here. We have been working multiple courses of action, given the current situation that we find ourselves in. We've got an A route, we've got a B route, and a C route. And for the military members, Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. We've got many directions that we can go given whatever the circumstance is. But the biggest thing would just be adding our classes to your schedule. Some benefits to joining Air Force ROTC. One, we already talked about the all expenses paid visits to various places around the country when those base visits come up in the spring semesters. Other things that we have in place, we in our detachment, we have enrollment-based scholarships that pay all of our AS 100 and AS 200. So freshmen and sophomore students each semester will automatically receive a $300 per semester stipend just for being in the program. We also have performance-based scholarships that are based off of our GPA and our physical fitness assessments. And so this last semester, fall semester, where we're still working through spring, which had its own hiccups, obviously. But we had cadets that were receiving anywhere from $70 to $700 just as performance-based, how they did GPA-wise and how they did physical fitness assessment-wise. So there are the monetary benefits. We also, as Air Force ROTC, we have what's called the In-College Scholarship Program. If a cadet is eligible for the In-College Scholarship, like Cadet Steese, they can receive up to $18,000 per academic year in tuition and fees, which is $9,000 per semester, a monthly living stipend that begins at $300 in your freshman year, moves to $350 in your sophomore year, $450 in your junior year, and $500 in your senior year, and is also accompanied by a $900 per year annual book allowance. And so the caveat to that is not to say that everyone is guaranteed that scholarship. There is objective criteria that has to be met in order to compete for the scholarship, but it is available. And we've got a large number of our students in our detachment that have earned that scholarship. So benefits, Cadet Steese has already spoken about friendships, relationships that have been built by virtue of being in the program, traveling the country to see what it is that the Air Force does day to day. And then there are also the monetary objective criteria that's met, the monetary benefits of being in the program. And then again, I'm going to continue tying this to the fact that when you finish your degree, you know that you have a place you're going to go, a job that you're going to do. And the same is true for all ROTC detachments. 99.9% of cadets that walk around staring at their phone, walking around on the sidewalks, have no idea what they're going to do when they graduate. Our ROTC detachments know that they have something waiting for them on the other side of this 4-year and or 5-year degree, whatever it is that you are trying to accomplish. But a lot of benefits, and so I'll stop there. I'm not going to hog all the bandwidth.
Awesome. And I'm just going to again refer to the chat. We've got a lot of really great resources that were shared there. So thank you for everyone for contributing in that chat box. The next question, I would really love if our ROTC, current ROTC members and graduates could share a little bit more. I know you've already talked a lot, spoken to your experience, but if you feel comfortable, to share with us about, what were some of those life skills, transferable skills? How is this really, impacting your future? Tell us about your personal experience and how being a part of these organizations transformed you individually.
Sure. So since I just graduated, I can kind of speak to our process for it, but I came in like every other college student at Ole Miss. So not really sure what I was going to do other than that I was going to be in the Navy when I graduated, but the program taught me a lot of different things from, our classic leadership, perseverance, attention to detail, normal military skills, I mean, even during my summer training, we learned more about how to do my Navy jobs. So in the summer, we'd spend time practicing firefighting. We'd spend time driving ships, and we have resources to help you learn, or to learn to be a pilot if that's what you want to go into. So we can teach you different skills. And then also, like we've said this whole time, we give you a job at the end of your time here, and then you'll get more skills from that you can then apply to the civilian world whenever you decide to leave the armed services.
So for me, of course, you learn all those military skills. I didn't have any family that was in the military, so I've always wanted to be. I don't know why, really. Actually, I do know why. It's just that I've always wanted to serve my country and, of course, you know, be a part of something bigger than myself. But going into the military, or at least in ROTC thus far, I've been able to build a lot of confidence in myself. I didn't know if I was for sure going to be able to do the whole ROTC thing. I didn't know what it was going to be like. And just diving in and realizing how much I'm capable of as a leader has taught me so many life skills. I went to a summer training as well, and that was basically 2 weeks out in the field, and you're really put to the test in your leadership, and I came out of that like a whole different person. And then I also have been able to just like, so at the very beginning of this part, I've always wanted to do Chinese and intelligence and go into the intel community after my college career, and you know, even in the Air Force I wanted to do intelligence. And then, you know, my whole life changed because I got to go do 15 hours of flying and get ground school in just through a scholarship that was offered to me through ROTC. And I never would have thought that I could come out of this maybe becoming a pilot, but it has opened that opportunity for me. And I'm so excited for what has like to come in my future career in the Air Force.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing those experiences. So we would like to know as well, you know, tell us a little bit about what the membership experience looks like in these programs, and what are some of the qualities of like other active members?
Sure. So in terms of just like day-to-day ROTC life before COVID-19, we would have PT a couple mornings a week where we'd have the whole battalion together, and we would do some form of physical exercise, whether it was a long run or take a group fitness class, you know, kind of different things. You obviously would have your naval science classes that range from talking about nuclear power to talking about naval history. So it's kind of a wide range of information and things that we'll teach you. And then we'll have our leadership lab on every Thursday. So that's where the whole battalion's back together, and we do more general military training and things like that. And the Marines will sometimes get to go to the field, work on land navigation, a couple other things more catered to their career, while the Navy guys will stay maybe in the building and work on things more catered to what we'll do someday. In terms of like, obviously, all programs, we have just places for essentially a student lounge. We call ours the wardroom, and you can go in there. We have tutors. We have other midshipmen that can help you with things. So we have a bunch of different opportunities that can help you, not only as a midshipman, but also as a student here at Ole Miss. In terms of just qualities of people we look for, I mean, obviously we want people that are driven and want a career in the service. They want to serve our nation. But also we look for people that are physically fit. We look for people that are intelligent. So just kind of higher end students is what our program is generally after.
So for Air Force wise, we have a little bit of a similar program with school. So of course we do PT 2 times a week, 0600 or 6 a.m. To 7 a.m. And it can be a long run. It can be a workout in the gym with cardio, calisthenics, things like that. And then we have class, like a aerospace studies class, and that would be your minor, where you learn about leadership, you learn about followership, how to be a good Air Force officer, Air Force history, air power, all the cool things. And mind you, these classes are meant for you to pass. They aren't hard, okay? I'm gonna tell you that truthfully. That's, I think, honestly, in all like ROTC programs, these classes are good classes to learn about yourself and learn about how to be an officer in the military. It's not something that should scare you. And then, yeah, Anthony is shaking his head like, yeah, it's not that bad. And then leadership lab is what
We'll
we
have
call
to
it.
make it harder, Cadet Steve.
Whatever.
I'm kidding.
Captain Angel. Come on, we got to be honest with the students here. It's a
I was
good.
going to say the Air Force
I'm
was easy
kidding.
anyway.
Yeah, it's great.
Well,
Whatever. Okay.
They built their
So-
golf courses first.
Right. That's what we hear. But we also help support all of our Navy and the Army, and we can talk about that all day. But anyway, so our leadership lab is where you learn how to drill, other military tactics, kind of what Anthony already kind of explained. And then we have, what else? Qualities for the people we look in. Just motivation is, Anthony kind of already talked about that, but really we look for people who want to be there. And it's about attitude and effort, honestly. So if you want to do the military, if you want to be there, you will show up, and we can see that difference from you and another cadet. It's all about working your hardest and trying your 100% all the time.
Yeah, and so to build on that, to continue to drive that home, and I know that all ROTC detachments feel the same, is that we're looking, and I cannot emphasize this enough, we are looking to build officers for tomorrow's force. And so if students come in and they are not fully prepared or bought in, we work on that through freshman and sophomore year. Individuals are weeded out if they're just trying to skate by and look for an opportunity afterwards. But the biggest thing is we actively work on those soft leadership skills. We find opportunities as our cadets and the Navy, their midshipmen, and the Army cadets, as they move through the program, the responsibilities are increased as we go, because at the end of the day, as soon as you get that diploma and you have your commissioning ceremony, you find yourself you have an entering active duty date that you are going to lead people. That's the biggest thing. So our focus is to make sure that our students are fully prepared to lead the world's greatest armed forces. And we take great pride in that. It's a big deal. And so, and I'll leave it at that. I can continue to go down that rabbit hole all day, but at the end of the day, and having Cadet Steese here and seeing her grow over the last 2 years, she's quite different today than she was 2 years ago. And it's not a knock on who she was previously, but we find opportunities for growth, and we continue to develop the students that are in the program to make sure that they are prepared, because we have an entire nation depending on our readiness and the leaders that are leading our programs. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you for that, Captain Angel. And that really leads me really well into our next question, is kind of thinking about that aspect of, you have these incoming students who are future leaders of not only these ROTC programs, but of our campus, and then by extension, our country. And so, where do you see your respective programs and organizations going over the next few years, and how could these new students really be a part of helping everyone get there, both on our campus level and then on that greater level as well?
Sure. So for our program, our biggest thing that we want to do right now is we kind of want to start branching out more nationally. There are a bunch of competitions and conferences between other ROTC organizations and branches. So every year there's a big NROTC conference at Notre Dame, and naval leaders from various countries outside of the US as well, and political figures will come and they'll speak to us about force readiness and kind of motivate these midshipmen to kind of get their career started. And so we kind of our kind of biggest goal is to start going to more and more of these conferences, and then also to compete against other organizations. We just started going back to drill meets at the University of Tulane, which features most NROTC programs around the country. So now we're trying to not only kind of branch out and meet other organizations, but also compete against them, because we have a good unit here. So.
And so from the perspective of Air Force ROTC, so I will say that given the pandemic, everything happening today, I've been fortunate enough, and that's kind of tongue in cheek, fortunate enough, I am on the Tiger team for headquarters Air Force ROTC, defining how do we continue to provide the country, Air Force officers, despite circumstances that we find ourselves in, whether it be face-to-face, virtual, or hybrid. And so a lot has come from that. Over the last semester, we have found capabilities that we did not have before. And I can speak on behalf, again, of all of the ROTCs. We are a very, very smart, very capable force as a whole. And so when we find ourselves in these certain circumstances, what I can say is that coming from this, our students that are coming through these programs are going to be in a position where they see flexibility, they see key to air power, they see key to naval warfare, they see key to they see key to ground warfare, all of those sorts of things. And how do we continue to provide the things that our country needs? The biggest thing at the end of the day is that we are continuing to move forward. Our students will be safe. They will find themselves in an environment where they will continue to get the necessary capabilities that they need to grow those leadership fundamentals that are required to lead the world's greatest armed forces. I'm going to keep going back to that because I don't want to poach Ensign Anthony's folks that are interested in the Navy. But being a part of this team, we have found a lot of capability. We have a lot of things in place to make sure that our students are safe and ready to continue moving forward as we go through the college experience, the ROTC development, things of that nature. And I'm at a strong verbal pause. So I'm going to leave it there. We are fully prepared to engage and ensure that our cadets are going to continue to grow in this program.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else want to speak to that point? Okay, well, thank you all again for your contributions to this conversation and sharing more with our students. I do want to just leave the floor open to our panelists. If there were any aspects of your organizations that were not hit on based on the questions I asked, or just additional information you would like to share, stories, anything like that that you think would be beneficial for our students who have joined us, I'm just going to leave the floor open to y'all. So feel free to share any last thoughts.
Captain Angel, can you answer the question in the chat about the advantages, disadvantages of OCS and ROTC?
Yep, so I just started to text that. So thankfully, my cadet wing commander is here helping me out. So just a little background on myself. So I am nearing 15 years on active duty, spent 9.5 years on the enlisted side. Deployed to Afghanistan, deployed to Kyrgyzstan. I had the benefit of shutting that base down for whatever reasons. Won't get into the political nature of that kind of stuff, but had the opportunity to travel the world. My first 4 years when I was enlisted at Hurlburt Field, part of Air Force Special Operations Command, I was chasing my undergraduate degree with the goal of commissioning through OTS. What I will say, and I can't speak for Navy, can't speak for Army, can't speak for the Marine Corps, as far as getting accepted to OTS through the Air Force, typically you will see that through these selection boards, anywhere from 9% to 35% are selected for OTS. Through through the Air Force. With Air Force ROTC, and without getting too deep into the weeds, I would say about through natural attrition, you're probably looking about 70% of the cadets who begin and finish the program are going to be officers in the United States Air Force. And so the selection rate when it comes to going on active duty as an enlisted service member, it's highly selective. It is very challenging. I can just speak from personal experience. It is very, very, very challenging. And so the benefit of Air Force ROTC, and the same again of all ROTCs, is that your students, your children, are learning to allocate the appropriate time to the appropriate things. And this is why I'm a huge advocate for Air Force ROTC. We are not service academies. We have Greek life, we have tailgating, we have all the things that typical accession sources do not have for officers in the armed forces. We're we're not knocking on your students' doors, demanding that they wake up at a certain time, telling them what to wear and telling them when they need to be at the next place. It is up to and it is incumbent upon your children or you. I can't see the faces if there are students here, but it is incumbent upon these individuals to mature very quickly. And the experiences that you have through Air Force ROTC at a Power 5 university, it is incumbent on you to grow up quickly. And the experiences that you have, you are going to take those on active duty, and you are going to be able to associate with people that struggle with things that they feel that no one else can associate themselves with. And so by being here, by, again, no one beating on your door like I had at basic military training, like I had at officer training school, demanding that I come out of my room and go to a certain place at a certain time. You are learning how to become a leader and time manage and prioritize that no one else in the armed forces is receiving. It's an invaluable opportunity, whatever branch you choose, invaluable. And so, so with that, and Cadet Cease will tell you, I go down rabbit holes constantly. But when it comes to what's the difference between trying to go for OCS, OTS, those sorts of things, understand that when you get an Air Force specialty code or an MOS, a job as an enlisted service member, as an aircraft maintainer, I was working 12 hours a day and trying to find time at night with a wife and a child at home to go to school. It's challenging. And at the same time, you have to maintain your work schedule. And then you're also competing against all other enlisted members and folks that have finished their college degrees to get to active duty as an officer. When selection rates are down around 9 to 30%, it is extremely challenging. Going through Air Force ROTC, we've already discussed the monetary benefits. And when we talk about the fact that if you finish the program, 70, let's say 80% of folks that finish the program are going to be officers. You're not competing with the folks that are trying to go to OTS or OCS. You are guaranteed a spot on active duty as an officer and the benefits that come with it. And Tim, you know, former Navy, please, I'm sure you've seen a lot of this from your perspective as well, that folks, enlisted members on active duty are competing for OTS and OCS. It's a challenge, it is. And you're balancing deployments, you're balancing family and responsibilities that regardless of whatever your job is, it can at times be insurmountable. But this is an opportunity to not only finish your college degree, but have that officership waiting for you on the other side. So Tim, you're going to be my Navy SME on the other side. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
So, yes, sir. Thank you. If you're enlisted in the Navy and you want to go OCS with your degree, just like Captain Angel, you're only allowed to go to the certain jobs that the Navy needs you in. So if you want to be a pilot, and everybody wants to be a pilot, intel officer, SWO is going to be the biggest one. Supply officer. So, and if you're in a rate, Navy job rate, say as an intel body, I want to go OCS with my degree, you have to have secondary and tertiary options because actually I don't think we're doing intel anymore. So there you go. You're probably going to be a SWO. I will tell you that officer candidate school, if you have your degree and you're enlisted, you can go at any point. Except for public affairs, they can only do it in the summertime. But as for ROTC, I see a lot of advantages of going to ROTC first. Although I'm enlisted, so I don't know the officer life at all. But those that come in enlisted and then go officer, obviously they've been enlisted, so they know how it's like to be enlisted, like, sir, you were. The differences are there, but any person that's a leader is going to lead no matter where they came in as, enlisted or officer. So you are who you are. That's how you are. It doesn't really matter if you came in enlisted first or if you came straight out of those. I've seen a lot of ring knockers that were total. Anyway, and I've seen some that were fantastic. It's the person, okay? Don't get all confused with, oh, he was enlisted first, and that's how come it's the person. But I will ask Miss Megan, with her Chinese background and intel why she wants to be a pilot, but okay. And you're going to go in the Air Force. That's okay. That's good. But cryptology is where I see you at. That's bottom line right there. I don't think they're going to accept you with Chinese linguists to be a pilot. I don't want to. I don't have a poker face. I'm going to be brutally honest. So that's how it is.
It's been a process, and I would love to connect with you this year, actually, especially since you're working with the Intel program. I'd love to talk to you, sir. Definitely.
No problem. And I told Wes, I don't know if you guys know Wes, he was an E5 when I was on board the ship together.
That's
he teaches
awesome.
the Intel Studies class.
Yes, sir.
I also did clearances. So I was an SSO with the Naval Special Warfare Unit. I didn't hear that at all with the jobs, with no one going Naval Special Warfare or EOD, and maybe because you got to be in extreme shape to do those jobs. But I have contacts with Naval Special Warfare. Any of those wannabe Navy SEAL bud studs, I can help with that as well. Just want to emphasize one thing to you O's out there. Your chiefs, your senior NCOs, we train all of you, okay? My next door neighbor, she's a softball player. She just left for OCS, Miranda Stother. So I was drilling her all day about becoming an officer and what it's like to be the leader. You know, we will all talk together in our office, but at the end of the day, the officer is the one that's going to go out into the troops and put out the word, right? But we together work as a team, so that has to be done. The teamwork of the chief and the division officer. I'm like you, sir. I can go on all day about. I miss it so much, but I can go on all day.
To kind of bring it back a little bit more to ROTC versus OCS, one thing I noticed was that I feel like our members from even all the other services as well, they had a better idea of what job or rate in the Navy that we wanted to do once we got to the fleet. So part of our summer training is they'll show you different aspects. They'll put you in a submarine for a couple of days, and you'll have to bear through that. You'll get to be on a surface ship. You'll get to be at an aviation squadron. You'll get to be at Camp Pendleton with the Marines. So you kind of get to see the different career paths that you could go down and then pick out which one best suits you. And just because I thought what he said earlier was interesting, we just had a graduate from BUDS. So if you are interested in the special warfare community, our program, I'm sure the others as well, have a history of putting guys through those.
Thank you all so
much. A good
much.
question, by the way, whoever that was.
Yes.
That was a great question because we have folks that walk into the office all the time and ask about OTS or OCS and finishing this program. So without convoluting things or making it more confusing, ROTC, I'm not going to say Air Force ROTC. ROTC, it's going to come down to what do you want to do? I put my contact information into the chat box. If someone has more questions that they want to know about what is Air Force ROTC, what does it look like? I'm on the phone every day with new folks that are coming in. We've got a large contingent of freshmen, brand new cadets that are joining us from all around the country, from Arizona to New Mexico to Illinois, to a lot of Mississippi, obviously, but we've got folks coming in from all around. I'm available and more than willing to set up some sort of conference where we can discuss any questions that you have that we didn't cover today.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question, and thank you all for your perspectives in response to that. I do want to turn things over to our students who have joined us. If there are any additional questions from y'all, this end of the session is really your time to be able to ask any questions you have. You can post those live to everyone in the chat box on the session, or if you would like to submit a question anonymously, you can click on here and private message me directly, Student Leadership and Engagement, and I'll just ask that question on your behalf aloud. So we'll just give a few minutes to the students to ask any final questions of our panelists before we wrap things up. And then, yeah, inviting our panelists and our students to take down the information that has been shared and contact information that's been shared in the chat box as well. So make sure y'all get all of that great information and get connected.
Okay, I'm gonna go first since I gotta leave in a little bit. I'm literally having everything in this house go crazy. Like, I'm having also a storm going on, so I might get cut out. But anyway, so real quick. So how could I go over and use the military? I'm trying to think of a word to say. How can I go over and use y'all's programs to go over and kind of use it to move towards diplomacy? Because my end goal is to go over and try to become a foreign service officer in the U.S. State Department. So I was just simply wondering, how could I go over and use the military to go over and transition to the U.S. State Department?
So we have a lot of folks that come into, and I say folks, cadets that come through our program and they want to get into using languages or working in state departments or working in different embassies around the country. The way that the Air Force works, and I can't speak for other branches, is that we actually have what's called a foreign area officer. And those are special duty assignments that you will find as you move further into your career. Typically, you would not have that opportunity until you hit about the 4-year mark when you become a captain. But depending on what your major is, there are certain jobs that are looking for language-enabled airmen or folks that have unique opportunities that the Air Force is looking for, whether it be engineering, computer science, things that are technical of nature. But when we get into being a foreign area officer, those sorts of opportunities come down the road. So you'll be looking at 4 to 5 years on active duty before you have that opportunity. Because first and foremost, when you are assigned your job, and I feel like I can probably speak for all branches of service, the first and foremost is the needs of that branch of service. You need to be an expert and you need to be a leader and understand how to take care of the individuals under your charge and whatever your specialty is, whatever your job is. And when you get there, you'll have an opportunity to go and become a foreign area officer where you're working in an embassy somewhere in Africa, Asia, Europe, wherever those embassies are. But those opportunities do come. But you've got to first focus on and perfect and work on that leadership wherever your position is. And so that's where it starts, at least for the Air Force. I felt like I was speaking a lot on behalf of all the branches, but that's how we operate.
All right, thank you so much for that response. And then we do have another question, just kind of open to anyone who would like to respond to this. So what kinds of positions in the military would be good or especially suited for a chemical engineering major?
So at least for the Navy, we have submarines and aircraft carriers that are nuclear powered. So if you have a really strong technical major, then you might be interested in looking at going to power school for the Navy. So you're well compensated for it, and it's just a fun career.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, the nuke field is probably the one field I don't really know much about, because it's that if you're looking for something really cool, but you're in the bottom of the boat. But I will tell you that I've never met a younger chief in my life who was a nuke, and he was probably 25 years old, a Navy chief, probably made it in 8 years. But it's tough school, and the attrition rate is very high, or keeping those guys, but you get paid a lot of money, bonuses, hundreds of thousands, equal to maybe Navy SEALs, I'd say.
So as far as the Air Force goes, we have so the Air Force specialty code is 62 Echo, so 62E. We have what's called a developmental engineer. And so for lack of better terms, where you find yourself if you are an engineer, a computer science major, things of that nature. We have a lot of R&D, and I'm sure the Navy does as well, both very technical branches of service. And so these are the put on the white coats, walk into a lab, and you're using your engineering degree day to day. And the purpose behind that is to create, develop, invent things. And a lot of our developmental engineers are inventing things, putting them on F-22s, putting them on battlefield airmen, our pararescuemen, our special tactics officers, our air liaison officers, putting them on them and putting them in the field, seeing how it reacts. And so each branch of service, it's very unique that we all do have our own research and development where we are trying to invent things and purchase them at large scale to help our troops in the field. And so we've got physics, mathematics, chemical engineers, electrical engineers, structural engineers, all those different people that are, that their job is to show up to an Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, an Air Force Research and Development Center, and invent things to see how they operate in the field. And so that is a huge need for the Air Force, especially. Yes, I see CBs or red horses as well. And so, CBs, I spent a lot of time, we had several of them on our camp in Afghanistan, Red Horse, Air Force airmen that are going downfield, and, you know, in support of operations that are going to take place in setting up bases. And so there's a huge need for engineers. If you go to afrotc.com, and look at scholarships, you can read about the highly desired majors. When you go under highly desired majors, you're going to see all of the languages, but more importantly, you're going to see all the engineering degrees that the Air Force is after, engineering degrees, which, long story short, gets into those monetary benefits that we talk about down the road, where the Air Force, if you are committed to doing this, the Air Force is offering scholarships to fund your education, give you the monthly stipend, a $900 per year book allowance, things of that nature. But there's a lot of opportunity down the road. And so a lot of it's going to be dependent on what it is that you see yourself doing when you finish the program. And yeah, there's a lot to do on active duty with an engineering degree.
Also, I'm going to add to that is that 2 cadets are in my class that have chemical engineering majors. And first of all, they love it. Second of all, one of the cadets wants to be an astronaut eventually, because you have to have an engineering major in order to be an astronaut in the Air Force. Also, that new Space Force is looking for a lot of engineers, and I'm not trying to recruit for them, but you can go into the Air Force with a chemical engineering degree. And then, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Captain Angel, but Space Force works with Air Force, and you can end up kind of almost working in that kind of way with missiles and things like that.
Yeah, so Space Force is the unique part that we haven't talked a lot about. So back in December of this last year, obviously the Department of Defense established the Space Force, which, for lack of better explanation, the Marine Corps is to the Navy what Space Force is to the Air Force. And so we have a lot of things going on. Do not compare our Space Force to what you see on Netflix with Steve Carell or whatever his name is. It's not quite the same. I promise you that. My last assignment was in Colorado Springs when there was no Space Force. I was an Air Force officer at Schriever Air Force Base. But yes, so we are transitioning. That's the next frontier, and the Air Force recognized that, and therefore we have a new established force under as a subset of the Air Force to regulate and to handle the next frontier, which is space. There's a lot going on there. And so our engineers, if they're interested in Space Force, there's a huge need. Having been a part of the teams that brought the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the president, the vice president in a very short period of time to see what it is that we did out in Colorado Springs. If you're interested in taking the fight to the enemy in a new place, space is where it's at. It is.
That's super cool. Thank you for sharing that as well. I'm sure our students have learned a lot from this session and all of your experiences and the great resources that you shared. I'm not seeing any other questions. Students, do you have any final questions for our panelists before we wrap up?
Yes, actually, I do have a question specifically for Cadet Stees. So I'm going to be going through the Chinese flagship, and I would also like to minor in intelligence and security studies. I'd like to hear kind of your experience on joining an intensive foreign language program and security studies, or intelligence and security
Yeah,
studies.
I'm your guy. So I was in flagship program. I just got out as a senior, and so I loved it. I got to go to Shanghai and Taiwan both summers. So freshman year, I got to go to Shanghai and study for 2 months intensive Chinese. And then last summer, I got to go to Taiwan, and it was just both amazing study abroad experiences. Definitely Chinese flagship is the way to go. Don't just go for the major just because flagship is like here and the major is like here, not in a bad way. But if you're like wanting to really develop good Chinese language skills, you have to put all of your like 100% effort into the language. So especially with Chinese being very hard, of course it's a challenge. I'm not going to say that it was an easy time. I did get out because of going the route of pilot, and you have to go that whole capstone year. And right now with COVID, it's not looking like that next year is going to happen, and with the national security issues. But if you have any further questions, like seriously, my number's in the chat. Text me about the flagship program, any questions that you have. Are you going in with prior experience or no with Chinese?
Yes, I do. I will be coming in with prior Chinese learning experience.
Great. That will help. I mean, you can definitely go in with zero experience at all, but it will help a lot because I did Chinese in high school as well, and it helped going in. Are you going this summer? Are you doing online?
Yeah, they couldn't run their summer beginning program, so we did some online sessions, and then we'll be doing winter intersession as well.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So just text me any specific questions about the flagship program, and then Intel, definitely go for it. It's a great, awesome program. I've learned a lot about foreign relations and how to do analysis and things that will help me in my life, literally just knowing how to read news articles and figure out the facts versus the fake news, and that's very, very important in these days. So yeah, any more specific, let's talk after.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
No problem.
And Jonah, do you have the contact information for Sue Kelly over at the Intelligence and Security Studies?
No, Captain Angel, I do not.
Okay, Cadet Steve, do you have that that you can plug in? Yeah, so perfect. So yeah, Sue Kelly is tremendous, and I'm sure the other ROTC detachments can speak to this. One, we've all got a great working relationship with the flagship programs. I am a firm believer that our university has the premier flagship Chinese and Arabic programs in the country. It's objectively stated. We have the best. And then the intelligence and security studies obviously correlates directly with what it is that we do. And we've got a lot of cadets. Cadet Stees, you're plugged in now officially with one of the best. So I'll let her give whatever she shakes her head no. But so I'm going to throw her on blast. So she actually was recognized by the Navy Federal Credit Union as one of the top 12 cadets in all of ROTC, Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force. So she is a ROTC All-American. So she's getting money from the Navy Federal Credit Union as being the best. And so Jonah, again, she can shake her head no, but you're connected with the best. So ask her all the questions. She works hard.
Well, that's great news, and thanks again so much. And Cadet Stees, be ready for some questions coming your way.
Bring them on. I'm excited.
All right. Thanks.
It's fantastic. Thank you both for sharing those contacts and getting Jonah plugged in with that. And Jonah, thank you for your question. And yeah, any other students, any other questions? We're getting a lot of great information sharing, a lot of great connectivity. So don't want to miss out on anything else that has gone unanswered.
No questions are stupid either. No questions are dumb.
No
You have a
questions
random
are dumb.
question.
That is right.
That's okay.
Any panelists, anything else? All right, well, I just want to thank everyone again. I'm going to share in the chat just for general involvement questions. Again, we're the student union, so we house all of our registered student organizations and then campus activities, leadership programs, and things of that nature. So students, if you have any questions about some of those just general topics, get connected with us. And then of course, make sure that you take a screenshot or copy and paste all of the great information that was shared in the chat today. But I just want to thank you students for joining us, and then also panelists, thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time with us today and just sharing those experiences and resources. I can't tell you how much it means to us as a department, but I'm sure as well to our incoming students that hopefully will get connected with your programs. As I shared at the beginning, we will be posting a recorded version of our time together today up to our website. So that's union.olemiss.edu. So you can check it out there. Feel free to share that with any folks that would benefit from this session who didn't get a chance to attend today. And then, like I said, please reach out to us if you have any further questions. But thank you all for your time, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having this.
Thank you. Howdy toddy.